Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Deep3 podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of having on Cody Henson. He's the director and head coach at Elevation Prep. It's a new prep school up in Indiana. Hello, Cody.
How we doing?
Good, good, man. So let's start with what is Elevation Prep? I know you just started this. This is your baby in some ways. So what is Elevation Prep?
It's a prep high school and a postgraduate academy located in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is about an hour 15 or so from north of Indianapolis.
Nice, nice. And I know you guys have a partnership, right, with a private high school, right, where they supply all your school stuff, right?
Yeah, so we partner with Lakewood Christian Academy, which is located in the Fort Wayne greater area. They do all their classes through their virtual school. And we also have academic advisors and tutors that sit within the classrooms with the guys daily and help them with all coursework.
Nice. Yeah, that's one thing, when you and I talked about, I liked how, the focus is on basketball in some ways, but it's also on the school, for kids to graduate. And because I know so many stories about prep schools, and when kids, they finish up, they graduate and like, oh man, you're not cleared. And I know you take
Right.
that stuff seriously. So that's really good. I mean, they need to take,
Yeah, we just wanted to create like a coursework that was very similar to a college setting. Most kids around the country and around the world, they typically go to school for about 8 hours. Um, and half of those hours, are typically with extracurricular classes like band, choir, art, PE, classes where, these high level athletes are not going to be trying to pursue to be a band director or some type of artist or something. So we sat down as a staff and was like, how can we make this the best academic experience, but also have the athletic experience tied in with it to maximize our hours to the best of our ability. So, we sat down and looked at the NCAA requirements and said, look, we're only going to be doing the classes that they have to take that are required by the NCAA. And we're not going to be trying to do all these extra classes and take those hours and be able to utilize it on the court with skill development, weight training, and then obviously practice.
nice. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's especially the type of kids you try and get there. And I know you signed a really good player right now. And those guys, they need, like you said, whatever they need to get into college, and of course that's going to be a whole different ball game when they get to college, as far as whatever they want to do there. But they need the extra work on the floor, and it sounds good to me. I mean, you do have, from what we talked again, you do have an experience of developing players, right? So we talked about the kid that you're career for Romania right now, and you're telling
Hmm.
me how you have the experience of developing bigs, and I mean your AAU background. You're coaching the Indy Heat. Um,
Hmm.
I mean that talks a ton about it. I don't know if a lot of European, scouts or GMs
Yeah,
know exactly what the Indy Heat does. But we're just talking about that, how it's a good program.
yeah. I mean, we've had great, successful players in general, but specifically in regards to like big men, we've had Greg Oden, um, Trace Jackson, which is at IU right now. Keon Brooks is at Kentucky. Um, Xavier Tillman, it's at Michigan State. Marcus Bingham, that's at Michigan State. Biggie Swanson, that went to Purdue, is playing the NBA right now. So we've had, especially from the big man spot, a very successful group of guys. From the guard spot, we've had, Jeff Teague. We've had Michael Connolly. Several different
Mike
guys
Conley, Greg
from that
Oden
level.
duel right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people say we're arguably one of the best eight teams of all time when they had Mike Connolly, Daquan Cook, Greg Oden. I had a couple other guys play with that team. I think Josh McRoberts was on that for a little bit too. So I mean, they had like six guys that ended up going and playing in the NBA. So
Yeah, I
we do
actually
a really
played
good
Daquan
job with our
Cook last
program.
3 4 years. I played Daquan Cook twice. He's in Israel right now. I mean, he can still light it up, So I can imagine with
Yeah,
him next to Conley and Oden right there. I mean, that's do you
yeah,
really
they're
want to help
definitely
off
spreading the
him?
floor for him.
It's
Yeah,
like
I mean, you got a guy like Connolly that can basically break anybody down, and then if you help up too much or anything like that, you got Oden for the lob, and then you got put Daquan on the side of Oden, and it's like, hey, you can't help. Which one do you help off on?
that's
So
crazy. That's crazy. Think about,
it was
them in
amazing.
high school, seniors. I remember because they're like somewhat close in age to me, so I just remember them being just beasts.
Yeah.
I've seen them when,
One of the best games, as far as high school I've ever seen was, when, Mike Conley and Greg both played against Eric Gordon, and obviously the teams were not as even, but it was just like I honestly, in all my years of watching, like, high school basketball, that team with Conley and Oden easily is a top 5 high school team of all time, just their dominance. I mean, like, no team really could just ever compete with them, and especially Oden. I've always said, my personal opinion, Oden could have possibly been a top 10, top 15 big man of all time if he would have never got hurt. He just had the correct intangibles. He had the size. I mean, he was a phenomenal defensive guy, great hands, and it's just unfortunate, a guy like him and Brandon Roy and guys like that. Their careers were cut short.
yeah, I mean, cut short, just affected by it. I know, Greg Oden, just from Ohio State, from right off the bat, I just remember him shooting free throws left. I was like, man, this guy just
Yeah,
like, I was like, he just really wants to play. I mean, how many guys
right.
nowadays, they're like one and done, or like they have their status, they could go in, they're like, yeah, no, I'm chilling, I'm done. Like, let me
Yeah,
save myself. And he just wants to play. He's clear that he just loved to he loved the game. But going back to
yeah,
high school, I mean, for me, it was the math that was good. I was at St. John's in DC, and we had the math, and every year the math was just stacked, right? I mean, Coach Jones right there, he runs the USA basketball. I
right.
think he was the head coach for under 18 World Cup team. I mean, every year it wasn't like whatever's in the DMV. I mean, you get a top players every year. It was just unbelievable the basketball they played, and to see
Yeah,
them now, almost 10 years later, just still at that level, and I feel like they're always going to be at a level. Um, but yeah, it's great, but it doesn't compare to Indiana basketball as far as high school goes. And I've heard stories about it.
yeah,
I've seen it on tape. I mean, we played with 1,000 people, maybe 2,000 people. We packed some
yeah,
gyms. But when it comes to Indiana basketball, I heard it's just different.
yeah. I mean, specifically when I played, my junior year, we ended up going to the Final Four. That year, we ended up losing to Zach Randolph's high school, which was Marion High School. They had Julius Mays, who went to Kentucky. They had Scott Wood, who went to NC State. Two of the best. I mean, Scott Wood at that time was probably arguably the best shooter in the country in his
Well,
class.
I saw him play in
He was
Europe
shooting.
too. He can light it up.
He was shooting something crazy. I think his senior year of like 52 or 53% from the 3 point line. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And if we would have won that game, I would have ended up playing Gordon Hayward in the state championship. But I remember that run that year, from the sectional, which in Indiana, like that's our first round, or some states it's called the district. Um, we had in our championship game, we had close to 3,000. Then we moved on to regional and played in the regional championship against Angel Garcia, who ended up playing for Calipari at Memphis, and Etwan Moore's high school, East Chicago Central, and we played in a packed gym of like 8,500, the loudest gym, high school and college. And I played at some big time college gyms, and I was like, I had to really, really focus on my point guard calling plays out and stuff because you just couldn't hear yourself the entire game. But it was an awesome atmosphere because um, you just felt so involved in the game. Like every bucket was just so crucial that you couldn't take any plays off because you had 8,500 sets of eyes that are just watching. And then we moved on to semi-state, and it was a similar situation where we played it in front of about the same amount of people. And if you got the opportunity to play at state at the Pacers Stadium, you're playing in front of 20,000 plus people, and people don't realize that you're not getting that in any other state where you're getting 20,000 plus people, for a game. And you go back to the days when they had like Steve Alford and all them, and they were playing in the dome down there, the RCA dome, and it was like 40,000 people, the largest high school game ever. People are like, man, that's not true. And it's funny because I'll sit down with kids that have no clue whether they're even from the U.S. or if they're an international kid, and I'm like, you ever heard of Indiana basketball? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. I was like, hold on a second. And I'll Google a picture of like Newcastle Gym, which is the largest high school gym in the country. And they're like, Coach, that's a high school gym? That's not a college gym? And I'm like, no, that's a high school gym. And it's like that quite often too. And they're like, that's nuts.
pack it.
I'm like, that's just, I remember a couple years ago when Romeo Langford was in high school, and every game that he was playing, people were in line 3, 4, 5 hours, just to get a ticket to get into the game just to see him. And it's just so much pride that we take in our basketball. Um, especially in the small rural towns, it's like a Friday night, the whole town's shutting down and everybody's going to the game, and that's kind of like the hangout spot for Friday nights. And it's just become a great tradition within our state. And then you look at all the guys who have developed and come out of this great state as far as going on and playing at the next level of college and NBA. And it's like you got guys like Oscar Robinson and Larry Bird, and it's like you go on down the list, and it's like, man, you never really sit down and think about all these guys that have really come through Indiana high school basketball, that have developed and went on to play at the next level. And it's just amazing to see. You can walk into any gym and you could potentially be seeing a guy that's going to be playing on TV.
Yeah, I mean, it's different from what, like I told you. I didn't know, honestly. Just coming from Europe, I had no idea, and I don't think I learned until like later on. Even when I was getting recruited, just Butler kind of became a huge thing. Like my junior, senior year, right? He took off with Gordon Hayward and Shelvin
Hmm.
Mack, and until then, you were like, okay, you just knew Indiana, you knew some of the teams, and it's like, okay. But when you start digging deep, like you said, it's just the crowds. To me, that's just like in the movies for us, in Europe. It's like,
Yeah,
man, it's just in the movies. That is like what you just said is not right. So like worldwide, people got to like realize it, that just the love for the game. Like you said, the whole town
yeah.
shutting down, and it's very different because right now we're talking about some crowds in Europe and some teams in Europe that don't get that attention. We're talking about pros right now, right? So it's just,
Hmm.
I mean, it's totally different. So now let's go to this, the basketball side of things at Elevation Prep. What's your?
Hmm.
I know you want to play a really tough schedule. So what are your goals for the first year? As a first year program, what are your goals?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to build a program that's gonna, put our name on the map, and people are gonna respect us, from a competitive standpoint. And then at the same time, I want to create a school that is going to have a reputation of developing guys and helping guys get to the next level, and actually, making a name for themselves at the next level as well. I always preach to all my guys, I'm big on relationships. I want for you to be able to call me in 10, 15 years and tell me, hey, coach, I'm getting married. So, you know, those things mean much of an importance for me, and I don't want to try to create that culture within my staff, and my players. And we just want to, just create an environment where the guys feel welcomed, that we're not car salesmen. Like I always kind of say that sometimes as coaches, we kind of feel like we want to feel like everything is a comfortable situation. It's genuine. We're here to care about you, and we want to have that relationship for many many years.
Gosh, that's awesome. And I know you talked about developing players, and you need the infrastructure to do that. And you told me some really cool stuff that you guys have access to that even some of the NBA teams don't.
Hmm. Yeah, some of the products that we have, and the weight room facility, and then also, uh, sorry, I have to grab my charger here.
Same
My
here.
phone was about to die. um, some of the facilities that we have, like our practice facility is like 8 courts. Um, our home gym that we play at is a college gym. It was the home site for the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, which is the G League affiliate of the Pacers, and so it sits about 13 or 1400 people in it. Um, And then from the housing situation, the guys are living in a $500,000 home, um, fully furnished. Got all the utensils to cook, and TVs in every room, and all that good stuff. And it's just we wanted to uh, we wanted to create an environment where the guys are going to have the best experience possible. Um, we didn't want any guys walking away from the program and saying, this could have been better. This could have been better. Yeah, we're gonna have a learning curve, especially in year one. Um, I've been in this realm, and I've saw the good and I saw the ugly. So we try to build upon that. and try to maintain an environment that guys really want to be conducive to learning, on and off the court. And um, like I said, just giving the guys the best experience possible. That when they walk away, they're happy with their decision that they came to Elevation Prep. And then along that, I always tell my guys, you guys are the best recruiters. So if I got a kid down the line, um, I want that kid to be able to go to one of my former players and ask them, "Hey, how was your experience over there?" I did that similar situation last night. Um, Spoke with a recruit, one of my kids who is currently a freshman and wrapping up his freshman season at Dayton. They're from the same country, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to hook you up with my guy. Give him a call, talk to him, ask him questions about me as a coach. He's probably going to tell you I'm a little bit crazy, but at the same time, I love and I care about him. So just ask all the questions, and I'm going to get back to you today." And I got back to him today. He's like, "Coach, it was a great experience. Obviously, Fort Wayne to Dayton is very, very close. So, they're from the same country. So it's nice, especially, coming from a different country, to have somebody in your backyard that is you're familiar with, speak the same language, same culture." So that's just kind of, overall perspective from our resources that we have. We're definitely trying to be top of the line.
Yeah, I mean, your experience coaching though, it doesn't really, like you said, year one, it can be a learning curve, but I feel like in many aspects, your experience so far is really gonna make that transition smooth. Because you know what you're gonna do, you know exactly how you want to run things, and I think you guys are certainly ready for it. I mean, just from what we've talked and from what you're talking about. So you guys staying in one house, right? And you're gonna have two teams. One's gonna be a post
Yeah,
grad,
we'll
one's gonna be a high school team.
Yeah,
And
one high school team, prep high school team, one which will be the national team, and then we'll have one post grad team, and then eventually, hopefully next year, what we'll do is we'll eventually move to a couple post grad teams, and then we may pursue a women's program or something. We haven't decided yet, but we definitely want to make our mark on the guys' side, especially with the high school team and the post grad team year one.
gotcha. Yeah, well, there's not many schools like this in Indiana, right? Is you would be like the second prep type school, right, in Indiana?
Yeah, there's only one prep high school, which is Lalomere. And then there's only two other post grad programs in the entire state as well.
Okay, so you open a lot of doors, I think, and that's also that's awesome. So, what's your plan as far as practicing? You said the guy's going to be in school what 3, 4, 5 hours a day. Um,
hmm
so, what do you want to do with them daily as far as they're practicing habits, and what do you want to do to help them out to improve as players?
Yeah, a typical day schedule for both teams is I do the athletic side in the morning, and I do the academics in the afternoon. I just feel, and people can be biased on the situation, but I feel, in my personal opinion, that me as an educator and me as a person that was in the school system learning, I did better when it was a afternoon class than it was an 8 a.m. class. So, I want to do the athletic side first, get the guys up, moving, get their brain moving, so that when we knock out the classroom session in the afternoon, they'll be a little bit more conscious and aware of what's going on. So a typical daily schedule will be, we'll get on the court about 8. We'll do an hour or so of skill development, give them, a 15, 20-minute break. Then we'll hop into practice for a couple hours. Then it'll be lunch. Then we'll do weights, and then a break. And then we'll come back and we'll do another 45 to an hour, 15-minute session of skill development. And then they'll go home, they'll shower, and then they'll eat dinner, and then we'll go right in the classroom. So they're going to be going from about 8 to 8, 8 to 9 every day, with some breaks here and there. But it's going to be a grind. It's going to be a business. But the reason I do it this way and have this set up this way with our staff, um, and I've learned throughout the years, is we try to do everything to implement to be as close as possible of a college setting, so that when they hit the ground running as a freshman, they're not behind. They don't feel like they're overwhelmed and calling mom and dad after 2 weeks and saying, "This is just too much. I don't know how to handle this," and asking a million questions. And
Which happens a lot.
so,
But nowadays it
yeah,
happens a lot. Nowadays, like, oh
yeah,
my college stuff, I'm transferring. And
yeah,
I can't,
yeah.
I can't say too much about transfer because I transfer, but I transfer for a different reason.
Mhm.
just because I want to be the best player possible, and I felt like I wasn't developing enough, just my own skill set, and I wasn't getting that role that can get me, the money that I want overseas and get my shot at the NBA. So it was just a different
Mhm.
type of thing because I didn't mind, when I got to Mason and Larinaga was, 6 a.m. weights. So you're up at like 5:30, go straight to weights, like just sleepwalking. Um,
Right.
then you got some shooting individuals, stuff like that in the afternoon. And that was during the summer, and some class in the middle. So I totally understand it. They can't get better, and especially you're talking about seniors, right, and post grad that really need the college. Okay, your
Mhm.
senior is probably going to be, um, you know, top notch, and they're going to have offers, and they do have offers already. So you don't, but in the same time, they got to get better. And the post grads, they're looking for offers, for good big time offers. So you got to put the work in. You can't be, it's to me it's just a no brainer. But I really like that. I really like how you kind of get them up in the gym early, because
Mhm.
like you said, just to come back from class after 6, 8, 7 hours of class, it's tough. At like 2 o'clock to be like, okay, now I got practice, and you can barely squeeze one practice out of them, let alone two or three. So
Right.
totally
Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah, yeah. No, we just wanna utilize our time to the best of our ability and be able to give the guys, enough access to, be on the court and, you know, uh, be able to get all the skill development possible that they can, so when they walk away from the program, they can say, "Hey, we didn't do this, we didn't do that, we didn't have enough time to have access to the court." We don't want any of those issues to be a problem.
Got you. Now for the last part, if you don't mind, can we touch on the AAU side of things with the Indy Heat? Because okay, so in Europe, a lot of I'll say a lot of basketball world, they think badly of the AAU, and for me, it can be a win-win, or it can be a lose situation if you're in the wrong program. And I think
Mhm.
that's what people need to understand, that if you're in the right program, you can develop. They take things seriously, where it's not like just we're going to rotate players, we're not going to practice, we're just going to show up to games. So can you talk about
Yeah.
your experience with the Indy Heat? You've been with them for a while, and we talked prior to recording this about the stuff that you guys were doing as far as practicing, before showing up to tournaments and all that.
Yeah, yeah. No, NDA is a very professional organization. We take the basketball aspect and the
Mhm.
academic aspect very seriously. We really want to set these guys up for success. We just don't want to just have a team and create a playing level where they can just play games and be seen. We do a lot of aspects off the court too, as far as sitting down, bringing guidance counselors in, talking to them about the NCAA, bringing in social media people to talk to them about, hey, what you should post, what you shouldn't post, what you should like, what you shouldn't like. We sit down and we do mock interviews with them, so they're very comfortable when they get in front of a camera or a news reporter, that they don't fumble over their answers and they seem professional. So there's a lot of aspects like that that we sit down and we do. We hang out a lot. We try to do team bonding events, so it's not just showing up on a Friday through Sunday, every couple weekends, and that's the only time that you see your teammates. But from a basketball standpoint, the guys that's on the staffs who coach, the 15s, 16s, and the 17s on both the EYBL side and then what we call the red side, which is kind of like our second team. Um, they are all guys who coach at major high school programs. Some guys are even coaching at the college level. So, we try to instill guys who know the game at a very, very high level and try to give back to the kids from that aspect. And then playing on the Nike EYBL circuit, there's no other comparison to any other shoe company. It's just like we always say, and we kind of joke around, but it's very serious at the same time. It's the closest thing to Division One basketball that you'll be able to play. I mean, if you go down the line and you look at the NBA draft, I mean, it's over, 75% of the guys that are being drafted in the first round are coming from the Nike EYBL circuit. And, we go to the events, and especially when you have an event like Peach Jam, which is kind of like the national tournament, so to say, where they take the top 16 teams and you go down there and you're playing in this packed rec center. And it's full of every college coach in the country that you see. I know my first year that I was a part of it, I was an assistant coach on the 16s level, and it was actually the year we made it to the Final Four. And We had a couple little breaks here or there. One of our starting power forwards' father got sick. He didn't hop on the plane with us. He didn't even come down to Peach Jam with us. And then um, one of our best guys, who was our best scorer at the time, who was at Purdue, Isaiah Thompson, he ended up getting kneed in his thigh and got a blood clot in like the Elite Eight game and didn't even get to play the rest of the Elite game Eight game and didn't get to play in the Elite or the Final Four. And we still ended up only losing in the Final Four by 3 points. But the crazy experience about all that was two things. Number one, not even 10 steps to my right in our pool, we had Chris Paul, AU organization, and he's standing right there and we're coaching against each other and like yelling at each other. And it's a crazy experience. And then also in our pool was Bradley Beal, his organization, and he was sitting on the bench and he was coaching as well. So, there's several organizations throughout the country like Team Griffin, and which is Blake Griffin's team, and then Team Mello, which is obviously Mello, and Rodney Hood has a team, and there's just countless NBA guys that have a team, and the experience where you're able to walk in an environment like that and be able to see Shaquille O'Neal, Scottie Pippen, all these guys, Kenya Martin. I mean, it's just an experience that you just wouldn't typically get at a normal AAU event or just a tournament or so to say. They do a really good job of trying to make it so professional and an experience that is just like none other. And the level of competition, every time you step foot on the court, you can have a team that's got 4 or 5 guys that are ranked in the top 100. And I don't know too many other places outside of the prep realm that you're going to be able to experience the level of competition like that until you get to the college level. So it definitely sets the guys up for success from off the court stuff and then from on the court from the level of competition. We do mini camps to start out the season. So we usually do like a 2 day mini camp, Saturday, Sunday, where we're having about 4 or 5 practices on that weekend. And we usually do that about 2 or 3 times before we start playing. So it's not the old typical stereotype of put a team together, roll out the ball, and hope for the best. It's we're preparing the guys with skill development, and then obviously instilling our philosophies and our X's and O's with the guys as well.
That's awesome stuff right there. I still remember when I was in high school and I got called after my sophomore year. It was at the Jamboree, the Nike Jamboree camp, and it was in St. Louis. And I go get my gear, and it's like I turn around, and it's like MJ and his son, right? It's like I go walk
Right.
around, like I turn around, and I'm like, well, that was Jordan. That was the Michael Jordan. I was like, let me turn around. So, and I
Right.
can imagine, when um, you talk about all these NBA guys coming back and just the feeling that these kids have, just playing against the Chris Paul team, and just seeing Chris Paul right there. I mean, it takes your game to another level. Whether you want it or not,
Right.
it's going to push you. It's going to push everybody next to you. So you're going to have to push yourself, and you're going to get better. And that's some awesome stuff right there. And how about last thing I want to talk to you about? How about a style of play? What kind of style of play you want to use at elevation prep? Um,
Yeah, our style of play is very, very fun and it's conducive to what the guys want to be a part of and it sets them up for success for the next level. I kind of use, if I got to use a program, it's kind of like Villanova, a lot of dribble drive, but at the same time, it's a lot of pin downs, a lot of flare screens, and it's constant movement. You'll hear me all the time when I'm barking out stuff during practice that, hey, if you can't make a play in 2 to 3 dribbles, get the ball out of your hands and give it up, because when you get to the next level, especially, that's a turnover. And not only that, when guys are making moves, I want constant movement on the opposite side of the floor. So at all times, you'll see our offense. It's just it looks chaotic, but at the same time, there's so much structure because we're constantly moving and making the defense have to adjust so much versus a lot of the offense where it's one on one and the other 4 guys are kind of just spread out and hoping that if he gets broken down that I'm spotted up and maybe my guy will go help and I'll get a wide open shot. With us, it's like, hey, we got to get the ball on the left wing. The right wing is setting a flare screen or a pin down to get constant movement. He's slipping to the basket, cutting through, getting another pin down from the other corner. And it's just a free flowing offense to where the guys have freedom within it, but at the same time, they have structure. They know where to be. So we don't want that old school style of, hey, you're the one, you're the two, you're the three, you're the four, you're the five. It's, hey, my 1 through 4 is going to be very dynamic. One time you may bring the ball up the court, the next time I may bring the ball up the court. It doesn't matter. We don't have what you would say a typical point guard position because as soon as he crosses half court, he gets the ball out of his hands. The offense moving and we're moving in general. So those four guys got to be very dynamic. You got to be able to put the ball on the floor and obviously shoot the ball at a high rate because that's the way the game is now. It's no more, as they say, the mid range is the lost art. You got to be able to either dunk or you got to be able to shoot the three. Um, and we try to teach the other dynamics too. We're not trying to let the mid range become a lost art, but we like a lot of spacing for the guys to be dynamic and break guys down, but at the same time, we're still getting that movement. And then on my 5-man spot, if you want to call it a 5-man spot, we want that European style big man that's very dynamic, can do a little bit of everything from pick and roll to pick and pop, can put the ball on the floor, has high IQ, can be able to pass at a high rate. Um, we do look at those intangibles, especially when we're in the recruiting phase, trying to find guys. We're at the prep school level, but at the same time, we're kind of like a college as well as when we're sitting down and we're recruiting and looking for guys to fit that system too.
Yeah, I mean, you're a high level team, so I think that's normal. But what I really liked what you said there is that you're gonna use all guys on the floor. It's gonna be, hey, I have my top prospect, and he's gonna go score 40 tonight, and we'll be all right. We'll be
Hmm.
good enough. And I think a lot of programs I've seen that do that. It's like, hey, we have this really good Power Five kid. He's top 150, top 100 nation, and he'll take care of it. He'll do everything. And I think that's you can't have success. You can have limited success with that kind of offense. And I mean, it was good. It was really good to hear what you were saying because just to that offense, I think any kid has an opportunity to shine. I don't think personally as a scorer, I don't think the offense should be like should be geared towards one player, but it's at the same time basketball is not equal opportunity sport. So if you have a better shooter, he's gonna take
Hmm.
more shots. But there's
Yeah.
ways to involve everybody when he does take 12 shots, 15 shots, 10 shots, whatever it is. There's ways to involve everybody else, and they're not just standing and watching because that's gonna make it more just harder for everybody. That was also
Yeah. We want from the development standpoint, like you said, we don't want one guy taking 30 shots and then everybody else is taking two or three. Because at the same time, that translates to the effort level of the guys. They're going to look at it and say, "Man, I'm not touching the ball, so why do I need to sit here and keep doing all this work?" Especially as a big man. I know. I remember, I was a defensive minded person, so offense really wasn't a big deal with me. But if I didn't touch the basketball to where I could make an opportunity for somebody else, I was just like looking at my point guard and I was like, "Look, why am I running up and down the court and keep rebounding for you and blocking shots and helping you when you get broken down?" But then you want to sit here and you want to jack up 30 shots. I was like, I'm getting tired of doing this. And I always told myself when I got to the coaching phase that I was always going to make sure that I try to create a realm where it was very level, even playing field for everyone. Everyone got a chance to shine because what happens when you go up against the top five team in the country and they have a high level Division One kid who can defend at a high rate and he takes away your number one option. Now the other four guys don't know what to do because they're not used to having that ball in their hands. So if you have that constant movement and constant flow of the offense and the ball's on a string and it's like pow, 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 everybody's touching the ball on one possession. And, this possession you're getting a shot, the next possession I'm getting a shot. And they never know who to key on. And from the development standpoint, that translates better to the next level because you can't just have one guy if you expect to make the deep run into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at, Golden State. Golden State, Houston. I mean, that's to me that's the best comparison. Yeah, Houston was close,
Hmm.
but Golden State was it was just so hard to beat when, like you said, you have so many guys that can score, and you just move the ball. It's bound to be an open shot. And there's a lot of bigs, like you said. To me, Draymond Green is one of those. I'm not his biggest fan, honestly, but he's one of those that fits
Yeah,
style of play and that team where he just like you said, you just want to get the ball and just move it. Just do something with it. It doesn't have to be scoring, but that gives him energy too. Just the extra pass, that assist every now and then gives him energy. So
yeah,
that's huge. To get maximum effort from all of you guys, not just from your top 1, 2, 3 options, because you need them. You need them on the defensive end. You clearly need everybody. And
Yeah.
on the offense, you never know. You know when they're gonna get an open shot, they can go get offensive rebound. And like you said, no big is happy. Just setting screen, rolling, and rebounding.
Yeah. No, no, not at all. But and from a coaching standpoint, I always use like the Clay Thompson game where he had like 60 something points and he only put the ball on the floor 13 times. And I'm like, look, yeah, I know he's an NBA guy and he definitely is one of the top shooters in all time. But if this guy is learning to be um, conducive to the offense, not being selfish and demanding the ball all the time, but he's playing his role. He's setting screens for other people. I mean, we always talk about the mid range as a lost art, but another lost art is people don't understand the value of screening and getting yourself open. We always heard for so many years, hey, the screener is the one that always gets open. But now I look at basketball these days, and it's like, why do kids not want to screen? Are they afraid of contact? Are they afraid to, get involved with that action? But it's like, sitting down and really understanding the game. That's why I always teach my players because I learned it from my father was don't just sit down and just watch a basketball game. Watch your position, learn from them, see how you can grow and improve, see what they do throughout the plays. Don't just look at a game and see, which is awesome, but don't just watch Steph Curry coming down and shooting half court threes. And the high flyers, that doing the crazy dunks. It's like really sit down and start studying the game to see how this can translate to your game and how you can get better. And I think that's where you separate yourself from a good player to a great player nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to do that too actually in college, when I transferred to America and then they're like, okay, this is gonna be your team, you're gonna have to carry the load. And I sort of became from just a shooter to a really I took a lot of tape of Dirk and I was like, okay, how can I get my shots off? I'm not the most athletic, how can I get my shots off the low post? And then coach was like, well, guess what? We're not gonna just play pick and pop. We're gonna run you off some off ball screens, right? Might be a pin down, it might be just a baseline stagger, flare. So you got to get used to that. So then I took some tape of like Peja Stojakovic. So I was like, let me see Peja, because he's like bigger, like I'm 6'9", 6'10". So I was like, let me see a bigger guy, just kind of
Hmm.
run off and how he runs because, like you said, I can watch Clay, but it's gonna be different just because our body differences in height and stuff. Um, but to me, a lot of kids need to do that. Unfortunately, I just watch a lot of James Harden now. I think
Yeah,
now it's like, who do you watch?
yeah,
James Harden. Oh my god, he's great. I mean,
right, yeah,
I don't mind watching him. It can get frustrating when you see it trigger down. Because like, oh man, he put up
yeah.
60.
But I always tell them all the time, there's a reason why there's only one James Harden.
Absolutely, and the
So
people don't realize how much he missed though, like this season. And I don't think a lot of players can really take that on their shoulders. Like a lot of players will probably break down when they're like 5 for 65 from three. I think it was like something like
yeah,
10% from three or something like that at some point this season. And I'm like, you don't understand that at that level, even European basketball, overseas basketball in general, it takes a toll when you're like 5 for 65. And guess what? I mean, I'm pretty sure, PJ Tucker and all those guys are cracking jokes about it in the locker room. So it's
yeah,
a lot. Like you see it, oh, he doesn't care. I'm like, no, he knows he's good enough. He's gonna make a lot of shots. At some point, he's gonna get hot. Like
yeah.
Clay said, he's like, I'm gonna keep shooting because this is what I do, and he's gonna start falling, which is true. But
Hmm.
as a kid, like high school kid or like a young freshman in college, you got to realize that you're gonna get a lot of heat if you're gonna be like 5 of 40 from three, and then all right, it's not gonna be
Yeah.
easy
Well, I tell kids all the
mentally.
time, yeah, if you want to be in a position to be a high volume shooter, you better be putting in a lot of practice time. And, I don't want you coming in one day a week and putting up, 3 or 4 shots and then walking out of the gym and then being like, yo, coach, like this is my game. This is what I do. And it's like, no. I'm like James Harden and them, they're putting up, 1,500 shots a day. And there's a reason why, they're allowed to have that extra green light, so to say. You, on the other hand, you got the extra red light, so you need to chill out shooting all them shots.
Extra red light. Do you have any drills that you do for them? Because I know coaches that I was watching the Oregon women's basketball team. They have like a red light, green light type thing where you got to make a certain number of shots, a certain number of minutes, so they allow you to shoot threes. Do you have something like that or no?
Hmm. I do a drill. It's called the Reggie Miller shooting drill. It's where a guy starts at the top of the key. He shoots a three. and every time he's running back to half court. Um, Now, if he makes it, he runs back and he receives a pass at the 3-point line. But if he misses it, as soon as he's touching half court, his teammates are rolling the ball to him as hard as they can, and he's got to pick it up and do two hard pound dribbles to the free throw line and pull up. And I've noticed throughout doing that drill, and then we do it from the wings, um, and from the corners. But I've noticed throughout that drill, it just creates a humbleness, so to say, for some of the guys. It's like, hey, this type of setting that we're creating where it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you're picking up the ball and you got a pound dribble, and just making it conducive to what a game setting is. And they're like, coach, getting a lot of shots up like that is really really hard. And I'm like, yeah, you're getting up. We do it for about a minute. So they're usually typically getting about 20 to 25 threes, um, if they're doing it fast and working hard. But, they come back to it and it's like, "Hey, coach, I shot like 4 of 25." And it's like, yeah, it's like the old my college coach used to say all the time. He he would, uh he would joke around with some of us bigs, and I'd be like, "Come on, coach, let me shoot a 3, man. I got a decent 12, 15-foot jump shot." And he's like, "Okay, come here." And then he would embarrass any person that thought that they could shoot, and he would say, "Start right here and shoot 10 shots. You got to make 8 out of 10. Then go to the next one. You got to make 8 out of 10. And then go to the three, and you got to make 6 out of 10. Go to the next three, make 6 out of 10." And he's like, "If you can't do that on a consistent basis, he's like, you're shooting layups. I don't want to ever hear nothing else from you." So I've kind of translated that over to my players now too. Like I don't try to embarrass them too much, but I'll pull them off to the side and like, "Hey, I want to see you shoot this shot and make 8 out of 10, and this shot 6 out of 10. And if you can do that, then we'll start running some plays for you where you can come off some screens and pick and pop and shoot some threes."
Nice. My favorite is like the Larry Bird drill. Do it, a 2 minute drill where he shoots 5 spots. I do it, you got to make two in a row each spot. So those 5 spots, then you run the top of the key and then you shoot as many threes as possible. And
Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot. You just want to beat your score every single time, and it pushes you to take game shots, because everything timed and everything you gotta, everything competitive. I think is the best part about it. I think when I was younger, I was shooting a lot of, I just needed reps. But as I got
right.
older, I was like, okay, I just need game reps and as many as possible. In a shorter type drills. So I went from
Mhm.
like the 1,500, and I would say 1,000 shots a day in the summer. I went to like, okay, let me take 250, but it's gonna be really game like. Um,
Right.
I kind of stole that a few years ago from Kyle Korver when I started watching him when I was trying to, um, as it became more and more of a stretch four, a typical European stretch four, and then I was like, okay, I need to really be ready at all times because, like you said, it's different when you don't touch the ball all the time. So I was kind of
Mhm.
watching Kyle Korver. I was trying to read foreign articles like how he trains and all that crazy stuff. And then I saw the Steve Kerr stuff when he was like kind of reading the newspaper and he was like a coach in San Antonio. I was like, okay, go. Like he was coming off the bench San Antonio. He had to shoot. So his shooting drill was like literally reading the newspaper for like 5 minutes. And then the coach would be like, okay, go shoot now. And then go take one shot, come back and like read the newspaper. I was like, thank God I didn't really come off the bench in my career. So I was like, I didn't want to do that. But
Right, yeah.
yeah. Well, Cody, man, I really appreciate your time, and I think you cleared a lot of stuff for any possible recruits from overseas or within the U.S. that watch this, and you know, I really wish you a lot of luck at Elevation Prep, and I'll certainly follow
Appreciate it.
follow follow what you guys do.
Yeah, yeah. No, we definitely, we want to bring in guys from all over the country, and I like it from the standpoint and all over the world where I like the camaraderie with the guys and learning from different cultures. I didn't really get to experience that until I got to the prep realm, where I could learn from all these different cultures and what they like to eat and what music they listen to, and learning some different words and stuff like that. And which ended up helping me out because I know when I made some of my players mad during practice and they said a certain word, I would catch them in the hand and I would be like, "Hey,
I know
you
what
might
that
want to
means.
chill out." And then they forgot that they told me a couple weeks ago what that word meant. So, but it's just, it's nice to have relationships like that. No matter what color you are, what race you are, what nationality you are, we're coming together for one mission and one goal in mind. And then, the end result is to have a relationship that will last forever. And we're excited about our program. We're continuing to keep building in the right direction. We want to have good morals, good values, and have good guys in our program that when they walk away from our program, they've left a mark on and off the court, within our community, and in the classroom. So, yeah, we're really excited, and I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Thank you, Cody.